name's Varun Mahatme, I'm 16 years old, and I live in Brighton. That's me as a baby. It's kind of cute, huh? What happened? And there's me with my first ice cream. God, it got everywhere, didn't it? There's me with my other mum, thinking I'd come first place in a school competition that we made an Easter bonnet for. And there's me with my big brother Isaac. He's teaching me how to flip pancakes. Would I become a famous chef? No, but my brother did. I love sports. Perhaps I'd play for the Saracens one day. As you can see, I grew up like any other kid. I had hopes and dreams, and I thought I was invincible. The world was my oyster. So, where in life does my unexpected turn start? This is where it starts. My life shattered and in pieces. I would like to share with you what I have learned on my incredible journey and how I have turned the tables after my life took an unexpected turn. What strategies and thought processes did I utilize to take me from here, age 11, having intense chemotherapy, to here, speaking on a stage giving a TED Talk, TEDx Brighton? Positive thinking helped me a great deal. I tried to adopt a mindset of positivity and recognizing that my cup was half full and not half empty. I know this might sound a strange initial reaction, especially after being told I had cancer, but the day before I was due to start 6 months of chemotherapy, I was sitting in my hospital bed with my mum next to me. I looked at her and knew that she was devastated and obviously very sad. I was trying to think of positives to cheer her up, and it struck me how lucky I actually was. You see, when I was 9, my parents took me to Brazil, where we as a family volunteered and we worked in an orphanage in the slums. Many of them I met, they had HIV, and they had full-blown AIDS with visible sarcoma lesions. So they too had sarcoma, just like me. But I knew most of them were probably dead, as they were never going to be given the treatment that I was able to receive. So, who wouldn't feel grateful in this situation, and perhaps, dare I say, lucky? I told my mum how I felt, and that I wanted to start fundraising to give back. And I realized how a positive mindset was going to help me feel better and deal with this terrible situation that I found myself in. I was given this opportunity to have this treatment, and I knew I wanted to give back. Although I didn't realize it at the time, I now think I adopted a similar approach to the theory of abundance, which states that by remaining positive and searching out opportunity, you are more likely to attract good things into your life. Another helpful approach was to fight the culture and not the individual. I had a long, convoluted journey to diagnosis, and this is quite common in rare cases of cancer. However, I think mine was quite difficult. So here is just a list of some of the errors leading up to my diagnosis. So I had back pain which wasn't recognized. I was repeatedly denied x-rays from my GP. I was given unnecessary, damaging physiotherapy directly into my tumor. I failed to reach a diagnosis from my first CT-guided biopsy, and then another failed diagnosis from an open biopsy. I had an incorrect working diagnosis of Langerhans cell histiocytosis, underwent an unnecessary 6-week course of chemotherapy, and then I finally had another CT-guided biopsy, which gave me another initial wrong diagnosis of a giant cell tumor. And from the first visit to the GP to being given the correct diagnosis of osteosarcoma, this took a long, drawn-out 10 months. So what do you think when you view these catalogue of errors? In your minds, would it ever add up to success or just imminent failure? Well, I believe in my case, it ended with a success story, me. What approach did we use to gain a successful outcome? Here is just one example of how this strategy worked for me. I distinctly remember after 6 months of 2 misdiagnoses, undergoing a course of incorrect chemotherapy and many failed biopsies, I was finally diagnosed with osteosarcoma, which is a rare high-grade bone cancer, and the tumor was in my spine. When my parents were told that it was unlikely that I'd not live to see the end of the year, they started an intense search for solutions and answers. And my parents have heard about proton therapy, which has had some success in treating cancers like mine. However, it was only available abroad. After being told that I would have to start a 6-month course of chemotherapy, and then at the end of it, undergo essential spinal surgery, which could leave me paralyzed, we then asked the consultants if I could be a candidate for proton therapy. And a very experienced Great Ormond Street consultant almost laughed in our face and said not to think about these wacky alternative therapies. This is when we realized if we were to get anywhere, we would have to fight the culture and not the individual. Thus began a journey of gently but constantly reminding the doctors that proton therapy and other treatments was in our mind's eye, and that we think it could be the answer to a successful outcome. So I underwent the chemotherapy, and thank goodness the spinal surgery did not leave me paralyzed. But the tumor was still live, as not all of it could be excised. Further chemotherapy was not an option, but what was still out there was proton beam therapy. And in August 2015, my case was put before a board, and I was accepted for 3 months of proton therapy in America. I believe this treatment really did save my life. And now the government is funding 2 proton therapy sites, one in UCLH in London, and the other one in Manchester at the Christie. In the States, we met many American patients who, by nature of their healthcare system, were self-funding their treatment, and most of them were struggling financially. Despite our long, convoluted journey to diagnosis, we have had many positive experiences with the NHS, and I cannot think what it would be like to have it without them. And obviously, how grateful I am to be able for them to fund my treatment abroad. So, I know today one of the main themes is inclusion and diversity. I can see how excluding this from the day-to-day running of an organization can have a detrimental effect on its whole outcome and the culture, preventing them from progressing forward in a positive manner. How do I know this? Because having cancer meant that I'd had to experience the complete opposite. Although my mum lived with me in the hospital and was my constant support, all that was familiar to me had gone. I couldn't go to school, I couldn't see my pets, I couldn't see my friends, I couldn't even go home. I felt isolation, loneliness, fear, and disconnection from life as I had always known it. As far as I could see, I had 2 options, either to retreat or to reach out. And I chose to reach out through the medium of film. It really helped me express my emotions, and it was a real stress reliever. And this is where my career as a filmmaker started, and I continue to reach out through film. So far, I have made films for businesses, charities, and organizations, created my own website, and building up my portfolio. And I know today my time is limited, and I know it's been a long day. I don't want to keep you forever. And I've just touched on the surface of my story. But before I leave, let's return to that broken bowl. In Japan, there is a 500-year-old art called kintsugi, which roughly translates to joining with gold. Kintsugi is built on the idea of strength, beauty, and imperfection. Embracing one's brokenness and imperfections can create something unique, beautiful, and strong. Kintsugi beautifies the breakage and creates it as an important part of the object's history. It's something not to discard, but it's something more precious than before. So, the broken pottery is repaired with a seam of gold. This is all to signify the beauty in what was once broken and to allow it to live on. Whatever you have gone through, whether they are physical or emotional scars, they exist to tell a story, and we should be proud of them. For me, I'll just move out of the way. For me, kintsugi is a good example of how I view my struggle, my trauma, my scars, and how I have come out the other end, stronger and wearing those scars with pride. So, here is that shattered bowl, beautiful and with a wonderful, rich history. I know that cancer was the breaking of me, but I am sure it was the making of me. Thank you very much.